What's going on, everyone? This is Jay from Premier Gaming Entertainment, and I'm here to bring to you my predictions video for this week's game versus Penn State. I don't have to say that this is a very huge game, obviously the biggest game of the season for us. So, I don't expect it to be any lack of effort for the Michigan football team. So I'm going to get into, what I think are the keys to the game. Um, it's one of these games where, obviously it's a top 10 matchup, but strangely enough, even though it's a top 10 matchup, you got two teams where both, for Michigan and Penn State, where people are arguing, well, who have they played? Are they really that good? They haven't played anybody, quote unquote. So it's going to be a good matchup to see, who, obviously who deserves to be the better team, who deserves to be in the top 10 really. I think, it's going to come down to who's going to be able to do what they do better. You got two teams that like to run the football primarily, and it's going to come down to really whether or not Michigan is going to be able to stop Penn State from being able to run the football. That, to me, is going to be one of the keys, probably the biggest key to this game. I think if Michigan's run defense is able to, slow down and stop Penn State's run offense and force them into being able to, having to throw the football, I think that will put Michigan in the driver's seat. So, that means that more than anything, Michigan, has to get out to a good start. So, as long as they're up or it's even, it plays into their hands. But if they fall behind, it can be, it allows Penn State to be more balanced on their offense and make things a lot more difficult for the defense. I think that our pass rush has, been steadily improving. I know one of the big things has been the worry that, how are we going to replace Aiden Hutchinson? How are we going to replace David Ajabo? And that's been the big question mark that everyone keeps throwing around. It's been each week, that's all we've been hearing. And to be honest with you, there's no disrespect to them, but I don't understand why all of a sudden that is a factor in Michigan football as a whole. Like, where were these guys before last year, where you were that concerned about them too as individuals? I mean, before that, you weren't really talking about them. I understand what they did last year as far as, their sack totals and what they did, but Michigan's pass rush and defense can't be reliant and can't be benchmarked based off of, two guys for the rest of eternity. They had a pass rush before those guys, and they're going to have a pass rush after those guys. So I get tired of hearing about, well, what are they going to do to replace Hutchinson and Ajabo? As it is right now, they're on pace, the team, anyways, to have a larger sack total amount than they did last year. So, obviously, they're doing the right thing, and, it's working as far as their defensive scheme. You don't necessarily have, two guys singled out that, are involved with getting those sack totals, and that's a good thing. To me, that shows that you have balance and depth that it's not one or two single guys that are getting all the sack totals. That means that there's production all around the board, and it means you can't, for the most part anyways, you can't scheme for or, set up your defense just to stop two guys. You have to play it even all the way around, because it's not just two guys that are going to get you the sacks, it's anybody can. So to me, that doesn't make any difference. So it's also going to come down to the quarterback play as well for this game. I know Sean Clifford has been there since God knows how long. I mean, he's probably about 30 years old now. Okay, well, he's not that old, but he is old. And, you would think that, to me, with that, he's got a ton of experience that'll help them lose this game. But to me, historically, Penn State hasn't been the greatest on the road in these big games. And historically, Penn State hasn't been great traveling as far as to the big house when playing us. I know that they did win in 2020 in that COVID year, but that was that was something completely different. For starters, there was no crowd. Our team was playing walk-ons on defense. We had, I think this was the second game that, well, no, it was the first game that Cade was actually starting, because in that Rutgers game, he actually didn't start. Joe had started, and then he came on relief of him. And in that game, I think on the first drive versus Penn State, Cade ended up injuring his shoulder, and they kept him in there, but he already had like a wet noodle for an arm. Now imagine a shoulder injury on your throwing shoulder when you don't even have the power to begin with. So he in that game he struggled mightily because he injured his shoulder, and then they eventually pulled him and put Joe back in there. So you already know what type of outcome that's going to be with Joe Milton in there. So, they did end up beating us that year. But like I said, there's so many factors that were that went into why we lost that game. But obviously, it's not going to be the same thing for this year. It's going to be a maze out. Michigan's going to be relatively healthy, and historically, especially under Harbaugh, against James Franklin at home, Michigan has been pretty stout. The games haven't necessarily been close. I don't anticipate it being a blowout. I think it's going to be closer than it has been in prior years, but I think that Michigan has, the talent and the home field advantage, which will be enough for them to get the victory. So, as I was saying, the quarterback, I'm seeing JJ. I'm not going to say coming out party, but I see him surprising people with this game that he's about to have. Everyone is waiting for the big mistake and the big letdown and the growing pains game and all that stuff. But all he's done so far this season is produce. Still the most accurate quarterback in all of the country, and I don't think it's going to be any different for this game. I think he's going to go out there and have a solid game, better game than Clifford. And, and one thing I just wanted to add before I get to my prediction. I've seen a lot of debate on these online talk shows and stuff like that about Michigan's offense and their play calling and stuff like that. And I just wanted to interject my thought about that. If Michigan is able to run their plays and run the plays that they need to in order to win, why expose, future plays that they don't have to if they don't need to do it? So, I give you the analogy. Say you were playing in a one-on-one basketball tournament, and you played against someone that's like, like not toddler, but they're like 12 years old, just started playing basketball. Are you gonna start out with your best go-to one-on-one moves, or are you just gonna do the basic stuff that you need in order to win that one-on-one game? If you knew that you were gonna play someone, say, that was better than you or close, at your skill level, in future games, and they're watching you play, would you want to give away your tendencies? Would you want to give away your best go-to moves? You probably wouldn't want to do that if you didn't have to do it, but you knew that you were going to win regardless. On the flip side, you may want to make the person who is watching you, who's going to be playing you in the future, think that that's all that you got, so they can prepare to, practice against and game plan against those moves that you keep revealing as being what they think might be your go-to move, but it might not even be that. So now, when they see you spin and think that you're going to go up for the jump shot, you might spin back the next direction and, have like a hook shot or something like that. Or they might think that you can only go right. But then when you play them, you go left, and their whole defensive game plan is out the window because they planned on, favoring your right hand the whole game. But now they got to guard both hands. So these are things that can throw off, opposing team's defense if they think that what you have, is not exactly what it is, and you got more than what they have, or you think that, for example, that if you run a motion play, that it's going to be a run every single time, and then you run that same motion play, they see it, and they react to it thinking it's a run, and then you do play action off of that, that's going to completely mess them up. So if that be the case, if you were trying to give them that tendency, why would you be constantly running play action up until this point? Bottom line, if you don't have to do something, or if you don't have to put something on film for somebody, why do it if you don't have to? The goal is just to win. Maybe you get style points for winning by a larger margin. Maybe that is good enough to impress the critics and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. So I think that they've done a lot of the things that they need to do to prepare JJ for these situations. It's good that not every single game is 59-0, that they've steamrolled somebody and he's gone out in the second quarter and didn't come back. So, anyways, my prediction for the game, like I said, I think that the biggest deciding factor, more than anything else, is the fact that this is a home game for Michigan. If this were at Penn State, I would still think that Michigan would win, but I'd be less confident in saying that I think that they would win. But since this is in Michigan, this is going to be, I think Michigan's going to win, obviously, and I predict the score to be 27-17 Michigan. So anyways, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, feel free to leave a like on the video. Who do you think is going to win? Do you think it's going to be Michigan? Do you think that they win convincingly, or do you think it's going to be a close game? Leave me a comment in the comment section below and let me know how you feel about that. Please like the video if you do enjoy my content, as it definitely helps the video. And also, if you enjoy the content, definitely subscribe to the channel. Anyways, thank you for watching the video, and as always, go blue.